A young woman dressed in a $3,000 designer gown walked into Judge Judy's courtroom as if she were stepping onto a yacht in the Hamptons. A Cartier bracelet shimmered on her wrist, worth more than most people's monthly rent. In her hand was a limited edition Hermes handbag, and her perfectly styled hair and flawless makeup radiated wealth and privilege. Her name was Madison Elizabeth Crawford. She was the 23-year-old daughter of Senator Robert Crawford, one of Connecticut's most influential state senators, backed by 15 years of political power. Madison had graduated from Yale University, a fact she made sure to mention within the first 5 minutes of meeting anyone. She was in court because her former college roommate, Jessica Martinez, was suing her for $8,500. The lawsuit stemmed from a wild party Madison threw while Jessica was away visiting her sick grandmother. The party resulted in the destruction of Jessica's laptop, textbooks, and personal belongings. When Jessica asked Madison to cover the damages, Madison refused, brushing it off as just a party and accusing Jessica of overreacting like a drama queen. What made the case truly disturbing was Madison's response when Jessica threatened legal action. Madison stared her former roommate straight in the eyes and said, "Do you know who my father is?" She claimed he could shut down Jessica's family business with a single phone call. Madison used her father's political influence as a threat, turning the power of a state senator against a regular college student who simply wanted her damaged property replaced. She entered Judge Judy's courtroom, expecting to sail through the case, just as she had every other consequence-free moment of her privileged life. Her plan was straightforward. She would show up, listen to a brief lecture from the judge, have her father's checkbook fix the problem, and then post about it on Instagram with an eye-rolling caption about annoying legal drama. What Madison didn't realize, what her sheltered senator's daughter, perspective, couldn't comprehend, was that Judge Judy's courtroom doesn't care about last names, political power, or the price of a handbag. Madison was about to make a mistake that would shock millions of viewers and permanently ruin her carefully crafted social media image. While Judge Judy was delivering her ruling, Madison did something so arrogant and disrespectful that it would become one of the most talked about moments in courtroom television history. She rolled her eyes, checked her phone, and told Judge Judy that the proceedings were beneath someone of her status. This wasn't ordinary disrespect. This was a senator's daughter, genuinely believing that rules, judges, and basic human decency simply didn't apply to people like her. What followed would become the most expensive eye roll in political family history. A single moment that would cost Madison her reputation, her influencer brand, and her father's patience. If you've watched this far, don't miss the ending. Like the video, sit back, and enjoy the story. Because what you're about to witness is the trial of a spoiled senator's daughter standing before a judge who absolutely does not care who your father is. Enjoy listening. Friday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. inside Judge Judy's courtroom. The bailiff's voice rang out clearly. The case of Jessica Martinez versus Madison Crawford. Madison walked in while actively texting on her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen as if she were in her bedroom instead of a courtroom. She didn't put the phone away when she reached the defendant's table. Instead, she stood there scrolling, only glancing up when the bailiff firmly told her to put the device away. When she finally slipped it into her designer handbag, she let out an audible sigh that everyone in the courtroom could hear. She scanned the room with visible boredom, the same expression someone might have while standing in an unnecessarily long line at the DMV. Judge Judy looked up from her papers with her signature sharp intelligence and no-nonsense demeanor. "Good afternoon, Miss Crawford." Madison's reply was casual, to the point of disrespect. "Hi. Not good afternoon, Your Honor." "Not even good afternoon, Judge. Just hi, the way someone might greet a barista while ordering an overpriced latte. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed slightly in the familiar look regular viewers recognize as a warning. But she maintained her professional composure and moved straight to the case. Ms. Crawford, you are being sued for $8,500 by your former roommate, Jessica Martinez. She claims you hosted a party that destroyed her property, including her laptop and textbooks, and then refused to compensate her for the damage. She also alleges that you threatened her using your father's political connections. When she said she would pursue legal action, how do you respond? Madison rolled her eyes so dramatically it could likely be seen from the back row. Your Honor, this is completely ridiculous. Jessica is being dramatic over what was just a simple college party. None of this was actually my fault, and honestly, I think she's just jealous of my lifestyle and trying to get money out of my family. The courtroom was thick with tension. Jessica sat at the plaintiff's table with neatly organized evidence folders in front of her, appearing professional despite her obvious nerves. She was a regular college student, facing the daughter of a state senator. And the imbalance of power was clear to everyone watching. Meanwhile, Madison repeatedly checked her expensive watch and sighed as if she were being held there against her will. Members of the courtroom gallery exchanged shocked looks at her behavior. Judge Judy's voice cut through the tension sharply. Ms. Crawford, I suggest you take these proceedings seriously. You are facing a significant judgment. Madison's response was laced with entitlement. I am taking it seriously. I'm here, aren't I? I showed up. What more do you want? A wave of disbelief rippled through the courtroom. Even the court stenographer paused her typing to look up, stunned by the audacity. Judge Judy then turned her attention to Jessica Martinez, whose hands were clasped nervously on the table in front of her evidence folders. Ms. Martinez, please explain to the court exactly what happened and why you are suing Ms. Crawford for $8,500. Jessica took a deep breath and began speaking clearly, despite her nerves. Your Honor, Madison and I were roommates at Yale for 2 years. We shared an off-campus apartment during our junior and senior years. On March 15th of this year, I had to leave town for 4 days to visit my grandmother, who had suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. Before I left, I specifically asked Madison not to have any parties while I was gone because I had expensive equipment and important textbooks in the apartment for my engineering classes. Madison promised me she wouldn't have anyone over. She looked me in the eye and told me I could trust her. Judge Judy leaned forward with interest. So, what happened while you were away? Jessica's voice wavered slightly, but remained steady. Your Honor, Madison threw a massive party with more than 60 people crammed into our small 2-bedroom apartment. The neighbors called the police twice because of the noise. When I returned 4 days later, I walked into complete chaos. Alcohol had been spilled everywhere. Broken glass covered the floor, furniture was overturned, and my personal belongings were destroyed. My laptop, which cost $2,000 and contained all of my engineering coursework and projects, had an entire bottle of vodka spilled directly onto it. It was completely ruined and wouldn't even turn on. My textbooks, which cost over $800 for the semester, had been thrown into the bathtub as some kind of prank during the party. They were soaking wet and totally destroyed. Family photographs that I had hanging on my bedroom wall were ripped down and torn. Some of them were irreplaceable pictures of my late grandfather. Judge Judy's expression grew more serious. What was Miss Crawford's reaction when you confronted her about this destruction? Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but she kept her composure. Your Honor, when I came home and saw the devastation, Madison was in the living room laughing about the party with 2 of her friends. They were watching videos on their phones and giggling. When I asked her what happened and showed her my destroyed laptop and textbooks, she just shrugged and said, "Parties happen. Things get broken. That's just how it is." I was devastated, Your Honor. That laptop held 2 years of my engineering work. Those textbooks were essential for my classes, and I'm on a tight budget. My family runs a small business, and they sacrificed a lot to send me to Yale. I couldn't just replace everything like it was nothing. Judge Judy nodded with understanding. So what did you do next? I asked Madison to replace my damaged items. I showed her the receipts and told her the exact amounts. I wasn't trying to cheat her or get extra money. I just wanted to be made whole again. At first, she told me to get over it and stop being so dramatic. She said college is about having fun and that I was being uptight and boring. When I insisted she take responsibility, she told me she'd think about it. Days went by and she did nothing. She wouldn't respond to my texts or calls. Finally, after 2 weeks of being ignored, I told her that if she didn't pay for the damages, I would have no choice but to take her to small claims court. That's when everything changed. Judge Judy's eyes sharpened. What do you mean, everything changed? Jessica pulled out her phone and held it up. Your Honor, that's when Madison threatened me. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Do you know who my father is?" Senator Robert Crawford. He could destroy your family's little business with one committee vote. Do you really want to mess with someone who has that kind of power? I was terrified, Your Honor. My parents own a small restaurant supply company in Connecticut. The thought of a senator targeting my family's livelihood just because I wanted my laptop replaced was horrifying. But I knew what she did was wrong, and I couldn't let her bully me into silence. Judge Judy held out her hand. Do you have evidence of these threats? Jessica immediately produced printed text messages and handed them to the bailiff, who passed them to Judge Judy. Your Honor, these are text messages Madison sent me after I said I would sue her. Judge Judy read the messages aloud, her voice controlled but filled with anger. LOL, you think you're going to sue me? My dad is a senator. He'll bury your family. Another message read, you're nobody. I'm connected. Drop this before you regret it. Another said, my father knows every judge in this state. And another, good luck with that lawsuit, peasant. The courtroom erupted into shocked murmurs. Even the bailiff appeared stunned. Judge Judy then held up the photographs Jessica had submitted, showing the damaged apartment. Your Honor, I also have photographs of the damage, receipts from my laptop and textbooks, and a statement from our neighbor, who witnessed the party and can confirm that there were over 60 people there. Judge Judy examined each piece of evidence carefully, while Madison sat at the defendant's table, inspecting her manicured nails with complete disinterest. Ms. Martinez, did anyone else witness these threats in person? Judge Judy asked. Yes, Your Honor. Our mutual friend Sarah was present when Madison first threatened me face to face. She was shocked and told Madison she was out of line. But Madison just laughed and said Sarah didn't understand how the world really works for people like her. Judge Judy set the evidence down and fixed her piercing gaze on Madison, who was scrolling through her phone under the table, completely oblivious to the growing storm of judicial fury building on the bench. Judge Judy's voice cut through the courtroom sharply. Miss Crawford, put that phone away immediately and pay attention. You've heard the plaintiff's testimony. You've seen the photographs of the destruction you caused. You've heard your own threatening text messages read aloud. What exactly is your explanation for this behavior? Madison slowly looked up from her phone with an expression that suggested she was deeply inconvenienced by having to participate in her own trial. She slipped the phone into her purse with another dramatic sigh and finally addressed the court. Your Honor, with all due respect, Jessica is making this sound way worse than it actually was. Yes, I had a party. College students have parties all the time. That's completely normal. It's part of the college experience. The apartment wasn't even that bad, and most of the damage was just accidents. People spill drinks at parties. That's what happens. It's not like I intentionally destroyed her stuff." Judge Judy's eyebrows lifted in her familiar expression of disbelief. "Miss Crawford, this wasn't just spilled drinks. Her laptop was destroyed. Her textbooks were thrown into a bathtub. Her family photographs were torn off the walls. How exactly do you explain that level of destruction as mere accidents?" Madison shifted in her seat and shrugged with casual indifference. "Your Honor, honestly, Jessica shouldn't have left her expensive stuff lying around if she didn't want anything to happen to it. If you have valuable things and you know someone might have people over, you need to secure them properly. You put them somewhere safe. This is kind of on her for not being more careful and responsible with her belongings." The courtroom erupted in audible gasps. Several audience members shook their heads in disbelief. Jessica's mouth fell open in shock at the victim blaming. Even the court stenographer paused her typing momentarily to process. What she had just heard, Judge Judy's face shifted into an expression of controlled fury that would soon become a viral screenshot across social media. "So let me understand this correctly, Miss Crawford. You're telling me it's the plaintiff's fault that you destroyed her property at a party you threw without her permission? In an apartment she pays rent for." Madison nodded, as if the logic were completely obvious. "I'm saying accidents happen at parties, and people need to be realistic about that. You can't have a bunch of people over and expect nothing to ever get damaged. That's just naive. Jessica should have known better." Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping into a dangerous calm. "Miss Crawford, why didn't you offer to replace anything that was damaged at your party?" Madison's answer exposed the depth of her privilege in a way even her earlier remarks had not. "Because honestly, Your Honor, Jessica comes from a very different background than I do. An $800 laptop really isn't that expensive in the grand scheme of things. She could have just asked her parents to buy her a new one or used one of the computer labs on campus. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. My father bought me 3 laptops during college because I kept wanting upgrades. It's really not the tragedy she's making it out to be." Judge Judy's voice became sharp and cutting. "Miss Crawford, what exactly do you do for a living? How do you support yourself?" Madison sat up a little straighter, clearly proud of her answer. "I'm between opportunities right now, Your Honor. I'm exploring my options and figuring out what career path speaks to me. My father provides for me financially, so I don't really need to worry about money or bills or any of that stressful stuff. He's Senator Robert Crawford, so our family is very comfortable. I'm fortunate enough to take my time finding the right fit instead of just taking any job." Judge Judy's expression could have frozen fire. "So you don't work. You live off your father's money. And you think $800 isn't expensive because you've never had to earn $1 in your entire privileged life. Is that accurate?" Madison seemed unaware of the trap she was stepping into. "Well, I wouldn't put it exactly like that, but yes, I'm fortunate to come from a successful family. Your Honor, I really think Jessica is trying to take advantage of my family's success. She knows my father is a senator and sees this as an opportunity to get money out of us. This lawsuit is really about her being jealous of my lifestyle and the opportunities I have. She's always been a little resentful of the things I have and the connections my family has." Judge Judy's voice turned ice cold. "Miss Crawford, did you or did you not threaten the plaintiff using your father's political position?" Madison hesitated for the first time, realizing she was on dangerous ground. "I mean, Your Honor, I might have mentioned that taking legal action could be complicated for her. But I was just trying to help her understand the bigger picture. I was trying to save her the trouble and stress of pursuing something that wasn't going to go her way. It wasn't really a threat. It was more like friendly advice from someone who understands how the world actually works." Judge Judy held up the printed text messages. "Let me read your friendly advice, Miss Crawford. My dad is a senator. He'll bury your family. Does that sound like helpful advice to you? Madison's face flushed slightly, but her entitled attitude remained unchanged. Your Honor, I was upset when I wrote those messages. Jessica was threatening me with a lawsuit over an accident, and I was defending myself. I was just trying to make her understand that going after my family wasn't a smart move. My father has worked very hard to build his reputation and his network, and I was simply explaining that she should think carefully before trying to damage that. Judge Judy's patience, legendary though it was, had reached its absolute limit. Let me understand this correctly, Miss Crawford. You destroyed your roommate's property worth thousands of dollars. You refused to pay for any of it. You threatened her family with political retaliation, using your father's position as a weapon. And somehow, in your mind, you believe you are the victim in this situation. Madison rolled her eyes in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. A gesture so exaggerated it would later become a meme shared millions of times across social media. Your Honor, I really think this whole thing is being blown completely out of proportion. It was a party. Stuff got broken. That happens literally every weekend at every college in America. We're treating this like I committed some major crime, when really, it's just normal college drama that should have been handled between roommates without involving the legal system. Can we just wrap this up? I have dinner plans at 7 tonight, and I really need to get going soon. The audacity of that statement hung in the air like an unexploded bomb. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed dangerously. As Madison spoke, her hand drifted toward her purse, and she pulled out her phone, casually checking the screen while Judge Judy was in the middle of addressing her. The courtroom collectively held its breath. Judge Judy's voice erupted. "Excuse me, Miss Crawford. Are you on your phone right now? Are you actually checking your phone while I'm speaking to you in my courtroom?" Madison looked up in surprise, as if she genuinely didn't understand the problem. "I was just checking the time, Your Honor. I told you I have plans tonight, and I need to know if I'm running late." Judge Judy's voice rose to a level that made even the bailiff straighten his posture. "Put that phone away immediately. This is a court of law, not your personal living room." Madison let out an exaggerated, long-suffering sigh that echoed through the courtroom. She made a dramatic show of slowly placing her phone back into her designer handbag, moving as if she were performing the most burdensome task imaginable. As she set the phone down, she muttered under her breath, just loud enough for the microphones to catch, "This is so ridiculous." Judge Judy's head snapped up. "What did you just say, Miss Crawford?" Madison realized she had been caught but decided to double down. "Nothing, Your Honor." Judge Judy stood up from the bench, something she rarely did, and her voice became deadly quiet in a way that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. "No, I heard you clearly. You said this is ridiculous. You think my courtroom is ridiculous? You think these legal proceedings are ridiculous? Instead of backtracking, instead of apologizing, instead of showing even a shred of the wisdom that 23 years on this planet should have taught her, Madison made the fatal mistake that would define the entire case. She looked Judge Judy directly in the eyes and said, "Your Honor, honestly, kind of. Yeah, this is a minor roommate dispute over some damaged electronics being treated like it's a federal case or something. My father deals with actual important matters every single day in the state's senatorial issues that affect thousands of people. This is just petty drama between college roommates. It's beneath someone of my background to even be here dealing with this." The courtroom erupted in shocked gasps and murmurs. Jessica's eyes widened in disbelief. The bailiff's mouth actually fell open. Judge Judy began to respond, her face a mask of controlled judicial fury. But Madison, in a moment of staggering stupidity that would later be replayed millions of times on YouTube, interrupted her. "And can I just say that I think the way this has been handled is completely unfair to me and my family." Judge Judy's voice thundered through the courtroom. "No, you may not just say anything. You do not interrupt a judge. You do not check your phone during proceedings. And you certainly do not tell me that your father's political career makes you too important to face consequences for your actions." Madison rolled her eyes yet again and muttered, "Whatever." That single word, that dismissive, entitled, bratty whatever, was the sound of a young woman's carefully constructed, privileged life beginning to crack. Judge Judy slowly sat back down, and the entire courtroom sensed that something significant was about to happen. When Judge Judy became quiet like this, when her voice lowered and her movements grew deliberate, seasoned court watchers knew devastation was coming. "Miss Crawford," Judge Judy began with deadly calm, "in my 25 years on this bench, I have seen thousands of defendants. I have seen criminals. I have seen con artists. I have seen people who made terrible mistakes. But I have never, in all my years, encountered such blatant disrespect, such arrogant entitlement, such complete disregard for the judicial process, and such a total lack of personal responsibility as I am witnessing from you right now." Instead of looking concerned or frightened, Madison smirked. It was a small, superior smile that suggested she still believed her father's political connections would protect her from real consequences. "Your Honor, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I really don't think I deserve to be lectured like I'm some kind of criminal. I'm a Yale graduate from a respected family. My father is Senator Robert Crawford, and he has connections throughout the entire legal system in this state. I'm sure he'll be very interested to hear about how I've been treated in this courtroom today." The threat was unmistakable, delivered with the confidence of someone who had never faced a real consequence in her life. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, her voice turning ice-cold and precisely measured. "Miss Crawford, let me educate you about something very important. Your father's position as a state senator means absolutely nothing in my courtroom. Political connections do not buy you respect. They do not erase your responsibility for your actions, and they certainly don't exempt you from the risky consequences of destroying someone else's property and then threatening them like some kind of mob boss. I have reviewed the photographs of the destruction you caused. I have read your threatening text messages in which you told Ms. Martinez that your father would bury her family. I have observed your behavior in this courtroom from the moment you walked through that door. You checked your phone while I was speaking. You rolled your eyes repeatedly. You interrupted me. You told me this courtroom was beneath you. And most damning of all, I have listened to your complete and total lack of remorse for what you did to another human being who trusted you as both a roommate and a friend." Madison opened her mouth to respond, but Judge Judy raised a single finger, a gesture that demanded immediate silence. "I'm not finished. Miss Crawford, I find in favor of the plaintiff, Jessica Martinez, in the full amount of $8,500. That includes $2,000 for the destroyed laptop, $800 for the textbooks, $1,200 for damaged personal items, including irreplaceable family photographs, and $4,500 in punitive damages." Madison showed little reaction to the financial judgment. In her mind, her father's checkbook could resolve this just as it had solved every other problem in her privileged life. But Judge Judy was not finished. "Furthermore, Miss Crawford, those punitive damages are specifically assessed due to your threatening behavior, your harassment of the plaintiff, and your abuse of your father's political position to intimidate someone who simply wanted to be compensated for property you destroyed. This judgment will be publicly filed with a special notation describing your threats involving political retaliation." For the first time, Madison's confident expression faltered. "Wait, Your Honor, please. That will be public record. People will be able to see it." Judge Judy's response was swift and merciless. "Yes, Miss Crawford. The public has a right to know when someone abuses political connections to threaten and intimidate citizens. In fact, I am ordering that a copy of this judgment, along with your threatening text messages and the complete court transcript, be sent directly to the Connecticut State Senate Ethics Committee and to the press office of the Connecticut Attorney General. Madison's face went completely pale. The color drained from her cheeks as the reality finally pierced her bubble of entitlement. Your Honor, you can't do that. That will hurt my father's career. He didn't do anything wrong. This will damage his reputation. Judge Judy's voice sliced through her protests. You damaged your father's career the moment you chose to weaponize his name and position against an innocent person. You harmed his reputation when you sent text messages threatening to use his political power to destroy a family's small business. Your father built his career on public service, and you used it as a tool for intimidation and bullying. Any damage to his reputation is entirely your fault. But Judge Judy still wasn't finished delivering. Consequences? You will also write a formal, written apology to Ms. Martinez. It will be submitted to this court within 30 days. The apology will acknowledge what you did, take full responsibility without excuses, and express genuine remorse. If you fail to submit this apology within 30 days, the judgment will automatically increase by $5,000. Madison began to protest, but Judge Judy spoke over her. Additionally, you will post a public apology on the same Instagram account where you bragged about the party that destroyed Ms. Martinez's property. The post will include a clear photograph of your face and will state, "I was wrong. I destroyed my roommate's property, refused to pay for it, and threatened her family. I owe Jessica Martinez a sincere apology for my entitled behavior and abuse of my father's political position. This post will remain on your account for a minimum of 1 year." Madison jumped to her feet so fast her chair nearly tipped over behind her. You can't make me post that on my Instagram. Do you have any idea how many followers I have? I have 45,000 followers. My social media presence is part of my influencer brand. I have sponsorship deals. This will destroy everything I've built. Judge Judy's response was devastating in its simplicity. Good. Maybe losing your influencer status will teach you that actions have consequences and that being internet famous doesn't make you a good person. Miss Crawford, you had choices at every step of this situation. You could have not thrown the party. You could have paid for the damage when it happened. You could have apologized sincerely to Ms. Martinez. You could have taken responsibility. You could have treated this court with respect. Instead, you chose arrogance, threats, and entitlement at every turn. Your father may be a senator, but you, Miss Crawford, are simply a young woman who destroyed someone else's property, refused to pay for it, threatened an innocent person's family, and then showed contempt for the legal system that exists to protect people from bullies exactly like you. Money and political connections do not change those basic facts. Madison's voice turned desperate and whiny. Your Honor, please. I'm sorry now. I'm really, really sorry. Can't we work something out? I'll pay whatever you want. I'll apologize privately to Jessica. Just please don't make this public. Please don't ruin my social media. Judge Judy delivered the final blow with calm precision. Miss Crawford, your apology means nothing when it comes only after consequences are announced. Words are cheap. Your actions will speak for you now. Payment is due within 30 days. Written apology due within 30 days. Instagram post due within 7 days. All court documents will be forwarded to the Senate Ethics Committee immediately. Judgment is granted in full in favor of the plaintiff. We're done here. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. Madison stood frozen in shock. finally realizing that her father's money and political connections could not save her this time. Jessica cried tears of relief and gratitude. Finally vindicated after being threatened and bullied within 24 hours. Video of the case went viral across every major social media platform. Senator's daughter gets destroyed by Judge Judy trended on YouTube, racking up more than 15 million views in the first week alone. Madison's Instagram followers found her old party post, screenshot it before she could delete it, and the hashtag entitled Madison became the #1 trending topic on Twitter. Memes flooded the internet, showing Madison's eye rolls with captions like, "Do you know who my father is?" and "When privilege meets reality." Senator Crawford released a public statement saying, "My daughter's actions do not reflect my values or the principles of public service I have dedicated my life to upholding. She will face the full consequences of her actions, and I fully support Judge Judy's judgment." Madison posted the required Instagram apology 7 days later. The comments were 98% negative, and she lost more than 40,000 followers overnight. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the smallest courtrooms. Madison Crawford learned that respect, responsibility, and basic human decency cannot be bought, borrowed, or inherited from a parent's success. If you enjoyed this story of justice served, you can support me by liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Loyal viewers who enjoy courtroom drama like this can check out the other videos on the channel. See you in the next video. Stay healthy.